Hey, it's Zane. Welcome back. Thank you for being here. It's Friday today. Hope you're having a great morning. And today I want to talk about 3 big mistakes people make in Bitcoin. And this is something I can speak to because I talk to people all the time who book one-on-one coaching calls with me. And I hear a lot about mistakes that people have made in the past, and they're wanting to do this right moving forward. People understand that Bitcoin is the place to be right now if you want wealth acceleration and wealth protection. But in order to experience those 2 features, you have to do it right. It's really as simple as that. And so there are 3 big mistakes that people do make, are making, and will continue to make because they don't spend the time on Bitcoin. So problem number 1, or the mistake number 1 that is very, very common is that people, they're simply uneducated. They haven't put in the time and the work to study Bitcoin. And Bitcoin is a protocol, a transformational new technology, a network, a protocol that is a paradigm shift. It's a completely new way of thinking. It's a new way of functioning that we're not used to. We are used to outsourcing our entire financial lives. That's the way that we've been brought up. We are used to an opaque system of money called fiat currency, where we have no idea of how much is out there, how much there's going to be in circulation at any given time. There's no hard cap to it. It's an infinite currency. But it's all we know, and it's all we've been subjected to over a long period of time. And so for most people, they just wave Bitcoin away because the minute they scratch the surface on it, they just realize, well, this is a complete 180 from everything I'm used to. It just makes no sense, and so people just dismiss it. And, one of the really fascinating things about Bitcoin is, for people who truly understand it and have done the time on it, to really understand Bitcoin, you have to be able to accept, as an example, that your house price is actually falling, not rising, because Bitcoin is inherently deflationary. And of course, try selling that to an Australian. It's virtually impossible because they are absolutely brainwashed to believe that houses and real estate is the apex form of property, not realizing that all that real estate has done for the past 50 odd years is tracked with monetary expansion, inflation. And yes, there are very small pockets that outperform that because they're highly desirable locations and really, really scarce forms of property. I get that. But across the board, all that real estate has done in this country over the past 50 odd years is pretty much match the M2 money supply. So it's important to keep these things into context when we're talking about them, and to realize that, this is all part of the learning journey when it comes to studying Bitcoin, figuring out what this thing is, and getting enough knowledge to realize that this is the place to be. This is the future. This is an emerging monetary protocol that is disrupting the legacy financial system, and 95% of the world is still asleep to it. So, mistake number 1 is people do not spend the time learning about Bitcoin. They're uneducated. Bitcoin is built on a system known as proof of work. Mining, producing new Bitcoin every 10 minutes requires proof of work. Very, very expensive to produce these miners. They run very, very expensive operations and mining rigs that uses shitloads of electricity. And it takes work to mine Bitcoin. And the thing to realize is that there's a message in that, as people who are coming into Bitcoin, we have to realize that we too need to do the work on Bitcoin, because nobody's going to educate us on it. You're not going to hear about it by your favorite politician. You're not going to hear about it from the central bank. You're not going to hear about it from the mainstream media, from your politician, from your financial planner, from your accountant. You're probably not even going to hear too much about it from your best mate at the pub. And so it requires you to self-educate. Self-educate. You are the one who is responsible for doing the work on Bitcoin. Don't think that you can just flick on a TV show and learn about this, because you just can't do that. Now, can you tune into some decentralized forms of media on YouTube, long-form podcasts, audio books? Absolutely, you can do that. And that's what I would encourage you to do, because that's how I learned, and that's how most people in Bitcoin learn, because Bitcoin does not have an education department. It does not have a marketing department. It's up to us to learn about what this thing actually is. So do the work on Bitcoin, educate yourself, read The Big Print by Lawrence Lepard. You can get it on Amazon, Kindle, audio, get the hard copy sent to you, whatever it might be. Read The Bitcoin Standard by Saifedean Ammous. That was the first book that I read back in, I think, 2017. There's some tremendous documentaries on YouTube. God Bless Bitcoin is a tremendous doco. What's the Problem by Joe Bryan is a tremendous video. I think it's only about 30 minutes long. How Money and Banking Work and Why They're Broken Today by Lynn Alden. Highly encourage you to watch that. Again, it's only about 30-40 minutes. But this is doing the work on Bitcoin. This is educating yourself. And so, most people, they'll go to the Friday night footy or sit around on a Saturday afternoon and wait for their favourite sporting event. But, they won't go and learn about something and spend half an hour and then build that up to, say, 10 hours of study on something that has the power and the opportunity to change the trajectory of their financial life. And I always say that people are either coming to Bitcoin by choice, or ultimately people are going to come here by force, because they're going to ultimately realize in the end, with everything that's going on around us, that Bitcoin is the ultimate safe haven asset, because it enables you to be in complete control of your wealth without any counterparty. So we'll get to that in a moment. But education, that is the first mistake people make. I would say you need to spend at least 10 hours and build that up to 20, 30, 40, 50 to 100 hours of study. And that looks like books, it looks like documentaries, it looks like long-form podcasts. And then when you do that, you're going to learn about different really important aspects of Bitcoin, such as hardware wallets, air-gapped, Bitcoin only, open source. You're going to learn about running nodes, why that's so important. You're going to learn about, different strategies for setting up succession planning, those kinds of things in the event that something happens to you. This is all part of the rabbit holes of Bitcoin that you end up going down once you have that base level of learning. So, education is number one. Number two is people buy fake Bitcoin. They buy fake Bitcoin thinking they own real Bitcoin. And what I mean by fake Bitcoin is that people don't understand that when they buy an ETF, an exchange traded fund, or they buy a Bitcoin treasury company, it's essentially just getting exposure to the number go up technology, but they're not participating in the real revolution of Bitcoin, which is self-sovereignty. And so don't buy an ETF or a Bitcoin treasury company thinking that you're a Bitcoiner or that you are participating in the freedom go up revolution, because you're not. All that you have is a synthetic paper claim to the number go up, a technology of Bitcoin via that exchange traded fund, via that Bitcoin treasury company. You don't hold the keys to that Bitcoin, they hold the keys to that Bitcoin. Bitcoin is built for self-sovereignty. Bitcoin is built for self-custody. Rule number one in Bitcoin is not your keys, not your Bitcoin. So if you're dismissing rule number one, thinking that you have Bitcoin, well, then you need to go back to step number one, and that is to get educated. Not your keys, not your Bitcoin. So when you own a treasury company or an ETF, you don't own the keys, so therefore you don't own the Bitcoin. And they are highly leveraged plays. And if something goes wrong with either of those institutions, or they institute capital controls or whatever it might be, they're highly centralized. And so Bitcoin being decentralized money, therein lies the problem. I mean, you're participating in a highly centralized game just for number go up in terms of paper currency, when Bitcoin is all about decentralization and self-sovereignty, moving away from that system. So it makes no sense to me as to why you would do that. So don't buy fake Bitcoin. The other thing with fake Bitcoin is that there's a lot of leverage, there's a lot of financial engineering, and there's counterparty risk involved. When you do Bitcoin properly, there's no counterparty risk. You're not relying on a CEO or a board of directors or an institution. You know, and all of these institutions also are obviously part of the regulatory framework in the jurisdiction that they're in. And so that is also a risk. And so, yeah, just important to understand where we are now, that, you know, a lot of these institutions, they're using Bitcoin for the marketing, for the name, and they're drawing people in, and people are saying, wow, you know, I'm going to be a part of this. I can see that Bitcoin's the best performing asset of all time. Let me have a piece of that. Let's put that into my portfolio. But they don't realize they don't own real Bitcoin. So that's point number two. If you can, it's probably best to avoid buying fake Bitcoin. Now, yes, there are some people that it probably suits them to have some exposure to that, but I would say for 95% of the population, they would be far better off just learning about Bitcoin and taking self-custody of their Bitcoin and being in complete control of that themselves. So this leads me to mistake number three. The biggest mistake, or one of the three biggest mistakes people make, is that they don't learn about self-custody. And like I said before, not your keys, not your Bitcoin. And so whenever you buy Bitcoin on an exchange or with a brokerage, that Bitcoin is sitting in a vault on the Bitcoin blockchain that is controlled by a key that they manage. Not you, they. Now, you may have your name on the account inside that exchange or inside that brokerage, but if something goes wrong with the exchange or the brokerage, something will go wrong with your Bitcoin. You'll lose it. And we've seen this in the past. FTX, Celsius, BlockFi, Voyager. These were very prominent Bitcoin exchanges and platforms from, I think, the last cycle, 2021, 2022. And people lost a lot of money. Why? Because they didn't follow rule number one in Bitcoin, not your keys, not your Bitcoin. They were very complacent. They saw all the sponsorship in the Formula One and the basketball stadiums with FTX and the like, and they thought, well, this all looks good, everything's sweet, nothing would ever happen. But it did happen. And I believe that a very similar thing is going to happen with some of these treasury companies in the future as well, and I'm not the only one who believes that. And so you just have to be really dialed into what's going on at the moment and making sure that you follow the rules of Bitcoin the way that they were created, and that is peer-to-peer, decentralized monetary system that you need to learn about and you need to do right if you really want to benefit from not just the number go up, but the self-sovereignty side of what this is. If you leave your Bitcoin with an institution or an exchange or a broker, they are also subjected to all of the regulatory frameworks. Can be seized, frozen, access to your Bitcoin and your funds can be suspended. All of that is a problem. And of course, what we're seeing in Australia right now is that banks now are making it difficult for people to move their money into exchanges, into brokerages. And they're starting to dictate to their customers how much they can send within a month. And they're giving them the runaround, and they're sending them to all of these different departments within the bank to make it as difficult for people as possible, and many people are just throwing in the towel and they're giving up. But that is the worst thing you can do, because all of this that is going on should be a red flag to you that things aren't right. Should be a red flag to you as to why you need Bitcoin, why Bitcoin exists. If you just give up and, just kowtow to what these people are saying to you, and you don't put your foot down and push things forward, then basically you're going to be a casualty in the system. You're basically just giving up to the system that, Bitcoin is here to disrupt. And so you need to choose which game you want to play, and people who are sticking with it and persevering, being polite, firm, but fair, they're getting it done. They're getting it done. And it's really important to do that, because most people don't. Most people just turn to water. They say, oh, this is too hard. They get spooked. They listen to all the bullshit that they're telling them, and they just give up. And unfortunately, they're going to miss out on why Bitcoin exists, and that is to actually decentralize yourself and to take control of your wealth in a permissionless way, in a way where there is no counterparty risk if you do this right. So don't be a casualty, and don't make mistake number 3, which is to not take self-custody of your Bitcoin. Yes, there are collaborative custody solutions. I'm not a huge fan of them. They are useful, I believe, in certain use cases, but I actually believe that most people, if you want to keep things simple and reduce any layers of complexity, most people just simply need to learn about air-gapped hardware wallets that are Bitcoin only, open source. They need to learn about running a node, why that's important, protocols that are available for setting up a succession plan. Inside all of this, learn about encrypted vaults. Sounds like there's a little bit to it, and there is, but none of it's difficult. It's like riding a bike for the first time. It was a little bit wobbly at first, a little bit foreign, a little bit new, but guess what? You didn't give up trying to ride a bike the first time you fell off. You did it, you persevered, and then eventually it was like second nature to you. And this is what it's like learning about self-custody as well. So I want to leave it there today. If you're ready to take action in your life and you're ready to level up where you are on your Bitcoin journey, if you want to learn about setting up a Bitcoin-friendly retirement fund, if you want to learn about protocols that I've implemented and I'm sharing with people around self-custody, all of these things that I've spoken about in this video, book a call with me. You'll see a link in the show notes below. I'd love to meet you on Zoom to have a one-on-one session with you. People get tremendous value from that, and I know that you will too. So, education, don't buy fake Bitcoin, and make sure you learn about self-custody, and you'll be well on your way to benefiting from everything that Bitcoin has to offer. Hope you got value today. Please like, share, and subscribe, and leave your comments. Book a call with me if you'd like to have a session with me. And other than that, I look forward to seeing you in the next one. This is Zane signing out. Bye for now.